Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Purity After Promiscuity podcast, where we are redefining a woman's worth. I'm your host, Jenna Renee, and we're here for another episode on this week. And we just are so excited for what it is that we are going to talk about. Today's content is going to be something that I believe we need to talk about. It is something that I know a lot of us are aware of and a lot of us hear about, but I think it's so important to get specific in this area because this is an important thing. I believe this is exactly what the Lord is wanting to speak to us as his daughters as we are setting the captives free. Amen. This is absolutely a part of this season. A total content is about setting the captives free. Right, this is what we're talking about in season 6. We out here, and it's all about being free. It's all about walking in freedom. It's all about being free from bondage, oppression, being free from our past, being free from our, false labels, being free from fear, being free, from whatever has been holding us back, whatever has been keeping us from walking in our true worth, right? Keeping us from walking in our defined purpose. We're walking in freedom in this season. So I pray you guys been blessed. I pray, women, you have been getting free, even if it's just free in your mind, right? Free in your mindset, free in your thinking, in your thought life, free, in your perspective, your perception, like whatever it is that, where you needed freedom. I pray in this, for season 6, this season we're in currently, that you have gotten freedom. So I'm super excited about today's episode. And we're about to get started. I'm going to release the countdown here. And then we're going to get into it.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So, hey, girl, hey. And we're back at it once again. And I'm so excited. Today's episode is Warfare is Real. And to be honest, I really did not know what I was going to talk about. And next thing you know, when I asked the Lord quickly, and I mean quickly, I heard warfare is real. And, I seen someone and they made a post the other day. And it was like such a right on time post because I've been kind of in this space of warfare. And again, I know you guys have heard me talk about warfare on previous episodes. And again, it's not to highlight or glorify anything the kingdom of darkness is doing, but it is to say it's a reality that we are in a war. Like when we receive Christ, we've got enlisted into the end time army. Okay. And being in a war, there's battles constantly going on. Like this is a battle that has been going on from the beginning of time, and it's going to continue to go on until Christ returns, right? And so as soldiers in the army of God and the end time army, we have to constantly be aware of the strategies of the enemy, the devices, the weapons, the things that we need to, be, to be sober and vigilant, right? To understand, how do we resist? The Bible says, resist the enemy and he shall flee. How do you do that, right? The Bible tells us to, put on our full armor. How do we do that, right? The Bible tells us that our weapons are not carnal, but spiritual and mighty in God for the pulling down of strongholds. Like, what does that look like? And so bringing practicality to a lot of things that we hear in the scriptures, because again, it's using these analogies, right? It's using these symbolisms because at the end of the day, we are in a war. We are soldiers, whether we know it or not. And even as women, we are soldiers. Like if you think about Jael in the Old Testament and how she, even though it doesn't say anything about she having any formal training per se as a particular fighter, that wasn't normal in that time, in that day, in that culture, right? It was just, it was more normal for a woman to just kind of, be a wife, be a housewife, to be a mother, take care of the family, take care of the husband, take care of the home and things of that nature. That was just a culture. That was the way they, that they lived back in those ancient biblical times. But when the opportunity presented itself, that warrior in her rose up. And when Sisera came running to her tent, to her and her husband's tent looking for refuge, because again, because of who her husband was and the clan he was from, the people he was from, they had like a treaty with the Assyrians, and where the people who Sisera was from, and so he ran there because he felt like he could find refuge, in which it presented to be that. But when he got to a place of comfort, she seized an opportunity, right? She knew exactly what she was doing. She was very strategic. Like, when she knew who he was, number one, and she understood what was happening. And see, she wasn't in Israel. She wasn't, an Israelite. She wasn't, involved in what the politics of what was happening at the time and the war and all of that. But she had enough awareness, right? She had enough insight and wisdom. It's like us today. We can watch CNN, right? We can listen to the world news. Like, so we don't have to be totally in another country or engaged in a particular region or place to understand what's happening, what's going on. So she was like, she had her ear to, to the world news. She knew what was happening. She knew there was war, there was conflict between Israel and this enemy army. And Sisera thought he was running to a place of safety because what he didn't do, his wisdom, he was so tired and he was under so much duress because he was running for his life, because Israel was beginning to overtake their army. Israel was devouring them and demolishing them. And so he went off running after he terrorized Israel for years, and finally the Lord came and begin to fight for Israel. And now he's running for his life, and he's running, and he's tired, and he's in fear, and he's anxious, and he got all these emotions. So he's not even thinking to himself, like, I need to make sure that the last time that I remember things were, that they're still the same, right? He never once really checked to see if this was a good place to be. He assumed that because he knew that there was some kind of agreement prior, that same energy was there. And when he went there, Jael understood the assignment, right? She didn't need God to come to her. And see, that's why we as end time women, and as godly and biblical women, like as women here in this 20th century, like in 2024, we got to stop feeling like we need God to give us a confirmation for everything. There are some things that we just know what to do. Like, she did not need God to come off his throne. She didn't need the Lord to send a prophet of God. She didn't need to send up a prayer request. When Sisera came knocking on her door, she understood the assignment. She knew the opportunity. Will you understand the assignment when even an enemy come knocking on your door? Do you know what to do? And see, she understood. And so she, he said he was thirsty. He asked for water, but what did she give him? She gave him milk. Again, she was so strategic, right? She was quick to act, quick on her feet, like her mind was sharp, right? She was sober, she was vigilant. And so why did she give him milk? Because warm milk is calming, right? It's calming. A lot of people will drink warm milk before they go to bed because it helps you to sleep. And so what did she want to do? She wanted to get him to get so relaxed that he would let his guard completely down, because she was going to wait for the right moment to strike. Sometimes, even in warfare, as we're fighting against, not flesh and blood, right? It's against these rulers and these powers, right? It's against the principalities and the princes of wickedness in high places. It's against the invisible, powers that we are fighting against, that yes, use people, but are fighting against people. But even when you are having to come up against a particular person, do you know how to strategize? Do you know how to wait to the right moment to strike? Like, or do you, at the first moment, that you see something, or the first moment that something looks off, or do you just, haphazardly respond? Or are you very strategic, right? Are you very calculated, right? It's like Jael, even though she probably didn't, I don't know, the Bible doesn't say that she had a prophetic word and she knew at one day Sisera was going to come seeking refuge from her. It doesn't say that. But based on what it says, we knew enough to know that she was able to think very quickly when the opportunity presented itself, and she was strategic in everything she did. She was kind and welcoming. She welcomed him in. She gave him a blanket. She covered him up. She gave him more milk because he was thirsty. You got to imagine, he's running. Who knows how many miles or how long of a distance he had to run, right? They're probably somewhere where it's a very hot climate. So he's hot, he's tired, he's exhausted, he's lethargic, on top of, the fact that he probably is full of fear and adrenaline and all kind of things. It's like, now he just like, I just need to rest. I just need to just like gather myself for a second. Let me get some water. She like, okay. But give him some more milk, right? Then she give him a blanket, and she assures him, right, that he's okay. And he tells her, if someone comes here looking for me, tell them you haven't seen me. And she's like, okay. So everything about her demeanor, like, she didn't give off to him at one point that she had a plan and she was going to take him out. Do we talk too much, right? Do we always give the enemy our information on how we're going to move, how we're going to attack, right? How we're going to launch out, right? When you think about a lion or a lioness, when they go out to hunt, they may see their prey from afar. But what they'll do is they'll stay hidden. They be patient. They'll stay hidden and they'll stay low to the ground so they can hide in the grass and in the brush, right? And so they're not detected. Do we know how to not be detected by the enemy, right? Or do we always got to make a lot of noise because we're messy and we're sloppy on how we're doing things? Are we giving the enemy too much information because we're putting everything we're going to do on social media, because we're telling everybody, the next great thing that we're doing, or because we're giving people insight into what God has told us to go into the room and shut the door and do, right? Because again, the widow woman, she was given instructions by Elisha to go and get jars, and then go in the room, her and her sons, and shut the door behind her. Meaning the only people that should have been knowing what was going on in this room was her sons, and the door was supposed to be shut. Have we got to a place that we so used to putting everything out on social media to tell everything about what we're doing that we don't understand that some of these things God have us birthing, some of the things God have us doing is literally an attack on the enemy? It's not just a coincidence that God told you to, start that business, start that ministry, write that book, write that proposal, apply for that grant, like whatever it is God has told you to do, right? He ain't just telling you to do that. Yes, you might benefit from it. Yes, you might be able to, help others. Yes, it might have all of these other benefits. But here's the thing, because God is a God of war. He's Jehovah Gabor. He's always strategizing against the kingdom of darkness. So when we get out here and we tell people things too soon, even like our quote unquote friends or our people that we close to, because again, we don't know, the enemy's so sneaky and cunning that he'll use the very people close to us, your own children, your own family members, especially if people are in blatant sin, open sin, or unsaved. We cannot we have to stop thinking that because we love people that means they can't be used by the enemy, or because they are close to us or related to us that listen, even if we, being believers and Christ followers, have open doors, we can be used. The enemy can come in. We can't be naive. And so we got to be very much more calculated, and we got to be more concise and more strategic and more aware. And we got to move, with a lot much more grace, right? You got to move like the lioness. She's going to stalk from afar. She keep it in eyesight, but she stayed down. She stayed low to the ground, so she's not detected. So the prey don't even know she there. Like, do the enemy always know you there? Do you know how to sneak up on the enemy? Do you know how to allow the enemy to keep doing what he's doing? And he think he, safe. He think he in a safe spot. He just grazing. He just doing whatever. And then next thing you know, here you come and you pounce on him. And see, that's how we got to be in the spirit. We got to learn how to be incognito. We got to learn how to be undetected. We got to learn how to move with grace. And we got to learn how to move in silence, right? You got to learn stealth mode. When people, are like special ops, or people people who have, particular type of skill sets, and they're called to do specific special missions. They know how to be undetected. They know how to enter into an entire building or enter into an entire house without making noise. Do you know how to get in the enemy's camp and, oh my God, and be a sniper and a sharpshooter and just taking out the enemy without them even knowing that you're there? That by the time they look up, it's too late. This is what God is wanting his daughters to do. This is how we're going to keep setting the captives free. This is how we're going to continue to advance the kingdom of heaven and do damage against the kingdom of darkness. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to do it if we're going to be able to come against the enemy and be more effective, right, against the enemy, because the enemy don't know what we are doing. He can't detect us, right? It's like we're undetectable. We're invisible to the enemy. Do you know how to be invisible to the enemy? Right? Warfare is real. And the army that wins are the army that knows how to strategize. They know how to study their enemy. They know how to strategize. They know how to move in silence. Right? They know how to use their weapons very effectively, right? They know how to even infiltrate the enemy's camp and not be detected. Come on, somebody. And it ain't to say, I'm not saying you need to go into darkness. You need to go into, the witch's coven or, the secret, Freemason meeting or, anything like that. But hey, the reality is some of us are called to do those things. It's the same way when you think about detectives, right? When the detective unit is literally trying to take out an entire ring, crime ring, they're trying to take down an entire, mob, they're trying to take out an entire, operation. What do? They send in an undercover. And here's the thing about this undercover. This undercover is somebody who does not just have to look the part. They have to be able to play the part so well that they even convince themselves. They have to be able to disconnect totally from their true identity to put on this other identity in order to be able to infiltrate the operation or the ring, the circle of individuals that they need to connect to. Because when you want to take down an entire system, when you want to take down an entire operation, you don't got time to deal with the people on the lowest level. What you want to do, your whole mind, your whole strategy is to understand one thing. I need to take the one that's at the top. I need to take out the one that's at the top, because if I take out the top, everything else gonna come down, right? Even when we're dealing with spiritual being, like the spirit realm and the supernatural, and we're dealing with, rulers and powers and, demonic spirits and things like that. Deliverance is great, and going after demonic spirits that manifest or that we can discern is there is great. But the thing that is going to be the most effective is if you identify and you bind up the strong man. I believe that's why Jesus, gave that parable about binding up the strong man and plundering his house, right? Why would you have to plunder the strong man's house? Obviously, the strong man has stuff in his possession that should not be there. So when you think of the strong man, like, a lot of us have certain patterns of certain sins or iniquity, right? The perpetual patterns of sins that we can trace in our generations and our lineage, right? So when you see your iniquity in your family bloodline, right? The sin that seems like people continually lean towards this particular sin, right? Let's say perversion. Now, perversion manifests in all different types of ways, but it's still under one kingdom, right? It's still under one category. So perversion can be, lust. It could be, just having a perverted mind. It could be, fornication. It could be masturbation, pornography, bestiality, incest. It could be, it could be just a wide range, right? Same sex, it could be whatever. It can be anything that is perverted, anything that is not utilized in the way God designed it, okay? In the sexual context. So there are some family groups, and mine included, where you can see that people are constantly in fornication. They're constantly having children out of wedlock. The men constantly cheat on the women, or the women constantly cheat on the man, or people are bound with particular sexual appetites and sexual sins. And so it's like you can trace and you can say, okay, so and 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 so, it's a pattern. Well, what you got to understand about that pattern, it makes no never mind that everybody's perversion looks different. Like maybe this cousin over here is homosexual. Maybe that cousin over there is promiscuous and a harlot. Maybe that cousin over there is a cheater. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. It's all perversion, right? And so the thing is to go after promiscuity, to go after whoredom, to go to go after lust, to go after pornography is great, right? Because those are spirits as well. But there's one spirit that is governing, right, and giving strength to all these other spirits, and that is going to be the strong man. So when it comes to deliverance, like, you can get these other lower level demons and imps cast out, but the thing is, if the strong man is still there, 9 times out of 10 they're gonna come back, because that strong man has not been dealt with. In this season, God is wanting us to deal with the root. God is wanting us to take out what's at the top. What really has us have our family bound? What really had us bound? What really is it? Yes, we can see the manifestation of this thing and that thing and that thing, but what is the source? Because one thing we got to recognize is that demonic spirits, in order for them to really oppress you, they run in gangs. Like, they like gangbangers. You feel me? You know what I'm saying? They don't run solo, because they know that 9 times out of 10 they can't do much damage if it's just one. So normally when you have perversion, then it might be connected with low self-esteem, it might rejection or abandonment. Like, it's gonna be connected to some other spirits, and they're all gonna come in together. And so that's how they keep you in bondage, because while you in your sexual sin over here, you're in your low self-esteem over there, you're in your low self-worth over there, you got your rejection over here, you got your daddy wounds over there, you got your your sexual abuse over here. It's like, so you have all these things, right? So it can seem like the focus is this thing over here, because the strong man likes to stay hidden, because the strong man likes to stay around. It likes to be dormant. It likes to hide, because it knows that if it's ever identified, then the eviction notice will be served. And so the strong man, even when you think about a spirit like Jezebel is a strong spirit. It's a principality, right? And it's not just a female spirit, it's in men too. But normally when Jezebel is there, you're going to see control, you're going to see intimidation, you're going to see domination, right? But then deep down under those layers, you're going to see fear, right? You're going to see probably some abuse and different things, because again, they all work together, and they like to form like this demonic, oh gosh, what is the word that I was just wanting to think? Like demonic, like system, like this demonic, like web that just keep you just totally bound. But the devil is a liar. God is saying he's setting his daughters free. And in order to do that, we got to go deeper. We got to begin to seek God like never before. We got to begin to seek God, not just on our behalf, but on behalf of our entire generations. Like, we can no longer stand by and look and say that, oh, we see perpetual alcoholism or drug abuse or drug addiction or illegitimate children, and we see all of these things, or sickness, infirmity, diseases, and chronic illnesses, or whatever, poverty and lack, and being behind and being beneath, and just all of these things. Like, we see these things, and somewhere we believe it's normal, and it's like, God is like, no, he's never intended us to live that way. That is living beneath. That is living beneath the abundant life that Christ died for us to have. He did not die for us to, stay on this low level. He didn't die for us to settle. He didn't die for us to be, addicted and, out of our mind and mentally ill, He didn't die for us to be confused and wayward and, can't figure life out and can't never get ahead and gotta rob Peter to pay Paul, and you're constantly in a cycle of debt and lack, and that's not of God. For people, even stuff like barrenness and infertility issues, like, come on here. I've had conversations with people here lately, and the same thing is coming up. Like, and I'm having conversations with different people about different things. But what I find is interesting is what is coming up is going back to deliverance. And when you think about deliverance is warfare. Right? That's a high level of warfare, because now you're confronting demons face to face, head on, right? You got different levels of warfare. So you got to learn, like, we have to be able to understand, like, how do we function in this army? How did the army that we're enlisted in function? What is the different hierarchies? Where do we fit? Are we on the front lines? Are we in the back? Are we in the middle? Like, what is our position? What is our skill? Because everybody in the army have a different skill. Somebody is a sharpshooter, somebody is a sniper, right? Somebody, they known for being able to, do X, Y, and Z, right? You have people that have specific skills, and they work best when they're able to operate in their particular skill, when they're able to utilize their skill set, right? Even David, when we look at David's army, there was a hierarchy there. You had the 3, you had the 30, and then you had the rest, right? And the 3, they was like, they was them boys. You couldn't touch the 3. The 3 was taking out 800 by themselves. One of them was taking out 800. One was taking out 1,000 with a jawbone or with some kind of bone, and they was just bad. Like, they was warriors, like and they were just good at what they did, and they functioned in their capacity. We got to get to a place when we're stop trying to be like everybody else. Stop trying to wear Saul's army, David. If all the Lord has trained you with is a slingshot, please believe, take your slingshot. Goliath's still gonna go down. Like, it does not matter. We got to stop it, because we will be more effective if we stay in our lane and we understand how to be strategic, how to do what we do. If you are a worshiper, then worship. He told Jehoshaphat to send Judah, send the praisers, send the worship first. The battle is not yours, it's the Lord's. So if that's your weapon, use that weapon. If it's praise, then praise. Right? If it's prayer, then prayer. If it's intercession, then intercession. Right? If it's whatever. It doesn't matter if it's encouragement, if it's exhortation, if it's ministering, if it's preaching, if it's teaching. What your weapon is, use it, because you'll be effective. You're going to take more out using the thing that God has trained you with and gave you than you trying to use what somebody else over there using. Every joint supplies. We need all the weapons together in order for us to do the damage that we need to do, because the kingdom of darkness, they are trying to gain territory. They're trying to overtake our next generation. They're trying to overtake our men. They're trying to do all of these demonic evil agendas. They're trying to strategize against us. And it's like, we got to wake up, and we can't just continue to sit silent, and we can't continue to just say, oh my goodness, or I'm going to just pray for you. And prayer is great, but it's a time for us to call to action. It's a call to action. Like, what are you going to do? Like, this not just about you. This is about your lineage. This is about your descendants. This is about your children's children. Like, if you don't stop it, if you don't be the one to rise up and oppose it, if you don't be the one to reverse the curse, if you don't be the one to tear down the stronghold, if you don't be the one to let to pull forth the anointing to destroy the yoke, if you're not the one to raise up the standard in your family, then who? And it doesn't matter, baby girl, sis, if you feel like, well, I'm just a housewife. JL was too. And guess what? She's recorded in the Bible, and she's known as being a warrior woman, because when the time came and she was able to put that tent peg through Sisera's head. She was able to drive that thing. Do you know how strong, how hard she had to hit that thing for it to go all the way through his head into the ground? But guess what? Because I heard a teaching about JL, and it just was profound, and it just came into my spirit just now. So I believe this got to be the Lord, because I ain't thought about this. I probably watched this sermon, I don't even know, last year or something. But because of the type of people that JL and her husband was, what they did for a living is they set up tents, right? They set up tents. And so because they were nomadic, so they were on the move all the time, and so they were always having to set up tents and take them up. And to secure the tent, you had to be able to drive the tent peg in deep. So she must have had a lot of experience. Listen to me, hear me and hear me well. This is why you got to use what God gave you. This is why you got to use what God trained you with. Who would have ever thought? She probably never thought in her mind that a skill like knowing how to drive a tent peg in deep was going to one day cause her to win an entire victory for a nation. Hallelujah. She didn't think that it was going to cause her to be recorded in the Bible and the Word of God. And she's somebody that we still talk about today and thousands years ago. She didn't think that. See, that's what happens when you think that the thing God is giving you, when you think the gift you have and the talent you have and the grace you have is little and minuscule because it don't look like somebody else's. But see, JL probably never thought that thing that God gave her was going to be the thing that one day that was going to kill a ruthless commander of an enemy army. But because she had experience and she developed a muscle, right? She developed a muscle and she knew how to drive that tent peg in deep because she probably had many years of experience. So when that time came, she didn't have to go looking for a gun. She ain't have to go looking for a knife. She ain't have to go looking for a rock. She already had what she needed in her house because she already had the tent peg right there. She already had the little hammer right there. And all she had to do was wait for the opportunity. And she used what she had. And she took that tent peg and she drove it in his head. And she hit that thing so hard that it went through his entire head all the way into the ground. Because she was a warrior woman. Because one thing she understood was warfare is real. And we don't have the time. Because time is short. Christ is returning. It's the speeding up of time. The days go by faster. The months are going by faster. The years is going by faster. We don't have time to be trying to figure it out. When an opportunity presents itself and the Lord is giving you an opportunity to take out an enemy, you ain't got time to be needing to go call to your prophet to get a word from the Lord. You ain't got time to go in your prayer closet and to pray for 4 and 5 hours. You ain't got time to call your pastor and to get permission. You better know what to do. You better know what to do. Because it's never just about us. Yes, we experience personal warfare. Trust me, I do. I know I do. I experience it. I have had to be trained up in seasons of warfare. Okay, I've been in a very long season of training in warfare, because anything God allowed, trust and believe, it's for your good. And if you know your God, yes, the weapon formed and you feel impact, but it doesn't prosper, right? Whatever the real purpose of the weapon was, it don't prosper because you're still standing, you still living, you still got your right mind, you still got your health. You may not have everything you want. You might feel a little effect over here and over there, but at the end of the day, it didn't prosper against you. And if God is allowing warfare, it's because he's training you. See, again, and training don't always look like what we think. It could be what we do day to day. He might develop you in a prayer life. Come on, somebody. He might develop you in the word life because maybe you use your sword. Come on now, because the Bible refers to the word as a sword. Know your armor, right? Maybe he's developing you. You're in a season where he's developing your faith. What is your faith? It's a shield and it quenches fiery darts, right? You just have to understand what your God is doing and why he's doing it, because everything he does is strategic and intentional, because he's always preparing us for what's to come. He's not never too late. He's not never behind. He's always on time. So what he's doing in this season is preparation for what's coming in the next, right? Because warfare is real. And know this, and it's not to bring fear, because we have not a spirit of fear. That ain't come from God. Power, love, and a sound mind. But it is to say that warfare is coming even more so. We're about to go into a time where we're going to see and experience some things like never before. We're going to have to know how to really bear down and trust God like never before. We're going to have to be able to know how to use our weapons. We're going to have to be able to know how to maneuver, you know what I'm saying, how to follow instruction, how to move, you know, without being detected and bringing a lot of attention to ourselves. We got to learn. Being silent is a weapon. Being silent is a weapon. I'm going to give somebody, I don't know who this would be for. I know it's for me. But I'm going to say this because I believe God wants me to say it. Learn how to disconnect from always needing to talk to people. Like, we have to get from the addiction of people. A lot of us, self included, are addicted to people. What do I mean? Like, we're always on the phone. We're always on the phone. We're always texting with somebody. We're always communicating with somebody on some level, or we're always hanging with somebody. Like, we're just always around people. And it's not to say we should not have community, because community is absolutely important. God, we know that, you know, in the word, it talks about community, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves, you know, making sure we are fellowshipping, you know, with our fellow believers, you know, worshiping, you know, and again, we are born in families and communities. So is not to say that, but some of us have gotten to a place where we're so very much we're more dependent on people and relationships and community than we are God. And that's a problem. That's an idol. We have now made this thing that God gave us to be good an idol. Right? And so in the season that we are in and that we're entering into, we have to, because it may come to a point where you can't communicate with people. The whole cellular network may go down. The internet may go out for extended amounts of time. Like, communication can be cut at any moment, right? We take it for granted because we're so used to it, and we assume we're going to wake up every day and it's going to be there and working, but it may not. And we got to learn how to sit in the presence of God. We got to learn how to be silent and be okay. We got to learn how to function if we could not connect with people. We got to learn how to be content and satisfied with solely God and letting Him be enough. Some of us need to learn how to make God our best friend. Right? We go to people every time we get an idea, a thought, an experience, something happened to us, you know, something good, something bad, some advice, some wisdom, like just to communicate, just to talk, just to have somebody to talk to. And we're constantly seeking and searching out people, and that's okay. You know, and if you're married, I understand you have a spouse, you know, when you have children, you know, all the things, but it's God should always precede all of that. Like, our relationship with God should take precedence over every other relationship. So we should be going to God more. We should be seeking God more. We should be wanting to hear from God more, right? And any time that's imbalanced, we need to go back and we need to reset. So in this season, God is like working in different ways with each of us, right? Our weapons may look different because our season is different, right? God created us different. And so, but whatever it is, God is trying to get your attention, whatever the area, right? Whatever God is highlighting to you in this season. Like for me, like I said, a lot of it has to do with like the generational things, the things that have been plaguing my generations. You know, He's bringing a lot of things to the surface, a lot of revelation. He's showing me things, you know, He's showing me, you know, particular spirits. He's showing me particular, you know, open doors. You know, He's revealing a lot to me about, you know, my family and my bloodline and my generation. It's important. You should know where you come from, because you need to know, you know, what's there. You need to know, you know, what it is you need to be praying for, praying about. You need to know, you know, what could be potentially affecting you or your family, your children. You want to know, and you want to know even the generational blessings, because again, we put a lot of emphasis a lot of the times on generational curses and the negative, but they're not, it's not all negative all the time. Like, there are some generational blessings that God has released in our families and in our lineage, and because maybe the generations before us forfeited it because of their sin, but they're still there. Like, that blessing is still there, and the Lord is looking for someone to be the recipient. The inheritance is still there, right? God was very big on inheritance in the Old Testament. He was so much so that he told the women of in Numbers, he told the women of oh gosh, what clan was they from? Oh gosh, and it's one of my favorite stories. It's escaping me right now, but basically Zelophehad's daughter, was they of the tribe of Manasseh? But Zelophehad's daughters, he had no sons. And so when it came down to the inheritance, they brought a case before Moses and the elders like, hey, my father, he died of his own sin. He wasn't involved with the rebellion of Korah, and he had no sons. And so because he had no sons, his inheritance is going to go to, a different male relative. And we don't feel like that's just, that's not fair, because rightfully we're his heirs, right? Rightfully, we're the ones in line to receive our father's inheritance. And because that had never been done before with women, that had normally was only a thing that happened for the young men. So normally the son was receiving the inheritance and the birthright, and that's just kind of how it was in that culture. But because now here we go with an unfamiliar situation. And so Moses said, okay, and he took it to the Lord, and the Lord said, they right. What they're saying is right. And indeed, they received their father's inheritance, right? God is the God of inheritance. And then when you go on in Numbers, again with Zelophehad's daughters, because they received the inheritance and they had to be married, because again, when a woman was married, she was married off and taken into her husband's house. And so the rest of the clan that they were from was like, hey, well, when they get married, the part of the inheritance that was given to our tribe, right, are given to us, well, now we would lose some inheritance because it will follow them to their husbands' inheritance, to their husband's house. And so then again, they had to deal with another circumstance that they had never dealt with before. And then again, God brought down a righteous judgment, and he said, well, then hey, they have to marry within their clan so the inheritance can stay in its proper clan, because every tribe was allotted land according to the word of the Lord, right? So the amount of land and the amount of inheritance was cast and given to every tribe. And so if they would have got married to someone outside of their tribe, then it would have took away from the inheritance that God gave their entire tribe. Like each person had a piece, but it was still of one whole, right? And so they was like, no, they can't just marry just anybody. They only can marry people in their same clan so the inheritance can be preserved. Inheritance is important. And so God did not intend for us to inherit, I'm sorry, that's a motorcycle, guys, inherit generational curses. No, we were supposed to inherit just generational blessings. So make no mistake about it. I don't care how dark your family secrets are, or how destitute your family lineage is, or how, horrific your family history is. There is somewhere, there's generational blessings that God released in your family, and he's looking for someone to rise up and get the mantles. There are mantles in some of our families. There are mantles, like don't let the enemy fool you and make you believe that everybody in your family is just been terrible. Everybody in your family was just rebellious. Everybody in your family just evil and wicked. Everybody in your family ain't saved. There had to be somebody. Even if it was one, there had to be somebody in the lineage somewhere that was saved, that was a man or woman of God. Now it could be, generations in between you and them, but someone was there. Somebody was a person of prayer. Somebody had a relationship with God. Somebody, set the standard of godliness and righteousness. Because how do you ain't just all of a sudden get saved just to get saved? No, these things everything happen is orchestrated, it's strategic. And so there are generational blessings that still are out there waiting for you to claim them, but you got to be able to fight for it. Israel had to fight for their inheritance. They inherited Canaan by right. God gave it to them, but they had to fight for it. So warfare is real. You're going to have to go to war for your generational blessings. For the mantles, you don't have no idea who probably was in your bloodline. You don't probably know who was a person, that was highly anointed or highly graced and gifted that did great things for the Lord. You don't know what mantles are in your family because, see, we're not taught to ask those things. We're not taught to seek the Lord about that because all we hear a lot about is generational curses and the negative, and we focus so much on what went wrong and how these people not right and, the things they've done. And I know those things are real and it affects us and it hurts. Yes, but there are good things there. And God wants us to be able to war strategically so we can get the victory, so we can begin to receive those generational blessings and those mantles, so we can reestablish our generations and leave an inheritance for our children's children. God is a God of inheritance. But again, all of these things go back to one thing: how do we acquire, right? How do we take possession of what is rightfully ours? Warfare is real. And on the flip side, the enemy will try to bombard us with so many things just to try to keep us distracted, so we don't ever find out that, yes, God has some wealth is your portion. Let me tell you something. If you struggle and your family lineage has struggled with a particular sin perpetually, I would go to God and ask the Lord, what is the generational blessing? Like, what is it that, like, your family, what is it that he put in your family that the enemy don't ever want you to find out, right? For example, because I'm about to end with this, because I want to set the captives free. If you know in your family that poverty has just been the curse, or the cycle that has just perpetuated through your generations and generations, like everybody been in poverty, like nobody really ever made it, nobody ever really prospered, nobody ever really became wealthier, did anything great. People always stay at like a certain level, they're always on a low level, never really getting past a certain like ceiling, you know what I mean? I would go back to God and I would begin to ask God, like, Lord, what is the blessing over our family? What is the blessing? Because you got to know everything is balanced. So if poverty has been the portion of your generations, then I would almost guarantee that somewhere that y'all are graced and called to be wealthy. And so the enemy constantly is going to attack your finances and constantly is going to attack your prosperity. Because then wealth becomes your weapon. I hope you caught that. Because wealth becomes your weapon. So if the enemy can keep you so bombarded, he can keep you in a perpetual state of lack, right? Keep you in a state of poverty. Keep you with never having enough. Keep you stressed out. Because guess what? Poverty brings with it stress, anxiety, worry, fear, right? All things that are not of God. And if he can keep you in that place, right, of making unwise decisions with your finances, that even if you do get a little money, even if you do get ahead, even if you do get a good job, you still make very poor choices, so you still living like a poor person, right? If he can keep you in that place, then he don't have to worry about the destruction that you're going to do to the kingdom if you ever really figure out who you are, if you ever lay hold to the blessing of wealth and prosperity that belongs to you, because again, that's your weapon. If divorce, singleness, right? If that's been the portion of your family, of your generations and your bloodline, everybody gets divorced and nobody gets married, what? You need to go to God and say, Lord, what kind of grace is on the covenants in my family? What kind of grace is on the marriages in my family that the enemy's been fighting so hard to keep us, to keep us single, to keep us not from ever getting into covenants and staying and having godly covenants? Like, what is it that you want to do through covenants in my family that the enemy is fighting tooth and nail to try to never let us discover what it is? Like, show me, give me a revelation. Like, begin to ask the Lord. Cause it ain't for no reason. It ain't happenstance that this is the thing, right? There are things God has for us as individuals, but as an entire family, right? Because God is always about the people. It's never just a person. He's a God. He's always thinking about the bigger picture. So what is it that you need to establish today that is literally going to be the generational legacy that's going to perpetuate throughout your generations to come? Because that's what the enemy is fighting. We think the enemy fighting us personally. We think the enemy is fighting our today. No. He's fighting you for your tomorrow. He's fighting you for your future. He's fighting you for your destiny. He's fighting you for if you ever find out, if you ever figure out, right? That's what he's fighting. If we level up in our thinking and again, it goes back to warfare, like understanding your enemy. Like, he ain't never interested in doing nothing that's going to just cause damage just today. That's why he likes to tempt us to make bad decisions, because he's very aware that I can make a decision today that literally will have a perpetual domino effect for decades, for generations, right? That is what he's after. He's after our generations. And if we don't rise up to fight, if we don't get a fight in us like JL, and it don't, listen here, it says, I don't care if you got to use a nail and a hammer, okay? Listen, sis used a tent peg and a hammer, or whatever they called it back then. And and it was already in her house. She didn't have to go to the store. She ain't got to go to Walmart. She ain't had to go to Target. She ain't had to go to the mall. She ain't had to go to Home Depot. She had everything she needed right there. So when that opportunity presented itself, she was able to get victory by using what she had. So everything you need, you got it. Everything you need, you got it. Stop looking outside of yourself. Look inside. Ask God to show you. What did he put in you? Some people, you sing, then sing. You write, then write. You create, then create. Whatever it is. You do business, do good business. Whatever it is, do it unto the glory of God. That is your weapon. That is where your victory is coming from. Because warfare is real. So, I pray that you all were blessed by this. I know it was super intense and deep, but I mean, that's all I got to say. I don't know. I'm not apologizing for it because, hey, I'm here to say what I feel the Lord has leading me to say. And in this hour, if we don't know nothing else, we got to know how to be in war. How to war. What does that even mean, right? How to be a good soldier, and so on and so forth. So, as always, take it all back to the Lord. I hope it bless you. Sis, I hope you get a righteous indignation in you, and you be like, listen here, devil. You not about to keep coming for my family. You ain't about to keep coming for my children. You're going to keep coming for me. Okay? Listen. It stops here. Okay? And so, and again, we don't do anything of ourselves. We do it in Christ. We do all things through Christ who strengthens us. And we come in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, the name that's above every name, right? And we know, Lord, that the Lord will go before us, go behind us, and be all around us. He is our shield and our buckler. He is our source and our strength. He is our strong tower, and the righteous run to him and are safe. Amen. So, I just, again, hope it blessed you. I am looking forward to seeing or hearing from you all. Continue to support the podcast by liking, subscribing, sharing, following, commenting, whatever platform you're listening on. See what functions. Most of them you can like the show. Most of them you can subscribe, you can follow, click your notifications so you know every time we release another episode. And some of them you can leave a review, right? Some of them you can leave a review, and some of them you can leave a comment. So I would appreciate you guys if you're able to connect with the podcast and share share with your community, share with your friends, share on your social medias, share. We have a goal to really get the podcast up there with in front of more people. We want to get the podcast up there with some of the other podcasts as far as visibility and followers and supporters and people who connect with and listen to the podcast. Not for me, but for what God is doing through this podcast. So again, share with your community. I appreciate you all. I thank each and every one of you for listening to every episode and streaming, downloading, and supporting the podcast. And I just want to let you know that your past does not define you. It develops you, and you are worthy.